Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our NFL Week 2 preview between the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Now let's take a look at some keys to victory for both teams, starting with the Titans.
I love the aggressiveness the Titans showed up front last week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers running game. Now this week versus the Texans, against the pass, you look at the linebackers, corners, and safeties. They're going to have to work together to wall off or squeeze that deep square in or that over out. That's one of the staples of the Texans passing game. And on offense, I will go with more condensed sets to help ease Jake Locker into the passing game. Those condensed sets are inside the numbers and just outside of the hash mark. They create those natural rub routes and picks that can help him make an easy read and get the football out of his hands quickly. And it also creates those quick angles and lanes in the running game so Chris Johnson can get to the second level faster, so that way he can utilize that breakaway speed. And for the Texans, Matt Schaub can't drift in the pocket. Nothing good happens when you drift back into the pocket, step up, make an accurate pass, and drive the football downfield. And although they spread the ball around in the passing game, they must continue to create ways to get other wide receivers and not the tight ends involved. You got to develop those number 2 and number 3 receivers, get those guys involved early, and they can have some success. Now, defensively, Joe Mays was excellent last week versus the San Diego Chargers in sniffing out the running game. He's going to need that type of effort this week versus the Titans that love to run the power play. We're going to explain that inside the lab. And the secondary, in my opinion, was assignment sound, but the execution was off. They have to execute better. They were in position. They just have to make the play this time around. Now let's go inside the lab to take a look at some X's and O's for both teams in this matchup.
For the Tennessee Titans to be successful once again this weekend, they have to make sure they get Jake Locker in an early passing groove. You got to find ways to get him going, throwing the football, so that way it takes some of the pressure off the running game. And I'm going to show you 2 plays they can run versus zone and versus man to help Jake Locker get into a rhythm very early. And we love to see how the Titans spread the football field with a tight end and 3 wide receivers. They have the talent to do so. Chris Johnson in the backfield. Now this is one they can run versus zone. It's a zone buster, expands the zone, it widens it out, and it gives Jake Locker an easy read to distribute the football. We're going to have the tight end run a shoot route, which is the delay block and shoot out to the flat. That's what's called a shoot route. That's your built-in hot read, your built-in dump off. We're going to have the Z receiver run up versus zone, settle down, and run a 15-yard hook. We're also going to have hook routes on this side, stem out, up, down, and hook. And we're going to have Chris Johnson run a swing, not a flare, but a swing. The reason why the swing works in this situation, again, it expands the zone. So if you have a backer here, and if you run the shoot route, he can get underneath this and stop and make a play on his hook route. But if he sees the swing coming, he can slow play this, thus creating the lane here for this hook route and also opening things up for this hook route if the cornerback is squatting and sitting on the running back coming out in the flat. So that's one way versus zone. Jake Locker can get into a rhythm early throwing the football, build his confidence up, and that way he can have some success. Now I'm going to show you a route versus man coverage that he can run that can help. Versus man, you want to get the football out quick because a lot of times you're going to have those natural picks and natural rub routes. You get that football out quick, they can make or miss, and it could turn into a big gain. So in this play versus man, we drop versus man here. This is a great way to get Jake Locker in a groove early. Now we're going to send a running back on what we call the shoot route. You saw the tight end run the shoot route. It's a speed route. It's your built-in hot read. Now the running back is running the shoot. So that will be your built-in hot read as well as the tight end also running the shoot. So left or right, depending on the coverage, he can find out where he's going with the football. He already knows pre-snap. He has 2 built-in hot reads, aka dump offs, that he can get that football to. Now versus man, you still want to run the Z up on a curl route, and you want to run the inside wide receiver on a corner route. Hopefully he can beat that guy out of his break, get to the corner. Locker can put the ball right here. We're going to have this guy run a spot route where he's going to settle in right outside shoulder of the tackle, settle down. It's a quick read for Locker to see, a quick way for him to get rid of the football, and a great way for this X receiver to make one miss and then get up the field. So you see how the Titans can get Locker involved in the passing game. It doesn't have to be super sophisticated. It can be simple. It can be effective. As long as he's efficient, they can get that balance going. It's going to make them that much more tougher to defend. One of the staples of the Titans running game is the power play. Sometimes they run it with the B gap open. Sometimes they run it with the B gap closed. And if the Texans are going to win this ball game versus Tennessee, they're going to have to stop the power play. And I'm going to explain to you in 2 plays how they run it with the B gap open or the B gap closed. And I'm showing you how the Texans can line up and play the right fit defensively to make a play on it. I'm going to step out the way and explain what we have drawn up here on the board. This is your basic power play that the Titans love to run. And right here, where you see, I'm explaining everybody's role, and this is a great play to run. They're pulling the backside guard in the hole to try to take out this backer. But right on the front lines, this Sam backer's job right here, his job is to spill the inside release of the tight end. You see where the tight end is trying to block down on his defensive tackle. This Sam's backer's job is to try to squeeze him down, force him to push himself into the tackle to thus squeeze down this B gap. So he has to make sure he creates all sorts of disruption right here, washing this tight end down in the hole, because this is defensive tackle's job in the lined up right here as a defensive end in this front, this under front. His job is to maintain the double team. He has to hold his own at the point of attack. If he can do that, it's going to clog up a lot of what they're trying to do with this power play. The middle linebacker's job is to stay inside and meet the rubber at the road. He's going to have to take on this block head on with this backside guard. If he takes him on head on, it frees up this opportunity for the weak side backer to come in, fill a lane, and make the tackle on a running back, because 9 times out of 10, the running back will want to follow his guard in the hole. I know I would. And you also look at the nose tackle. His job is to make sure he holds his own here at the point of attack with that double team, create that pile up at the line of scrimmage, and that way he can have some success and not allow the center to get to the second level and block this weak side backer, scraping, contain coverage here on the outside. And it's this job right here of the free safety to play the cutback and the reverse. So he's slow playing it in case this guy cuts it back across the grain. He's the last line of defense along with the cornerback and the receiver that's out here. Strong side safety, or what we call this, the strong safety. His job is to play the force on the outside, so he's the fill guy. His job is to take the fill. So this is explaining when the B gap is open. You see they're clearing the way for the B gap to be open. So I'm explaining next what it's like to when they are running the power with this B gap closed. Now here we have the B gap closed, which means now we're pulling the backside guard on the outside and everyone is blocking down still in the under front. So the responsibilities here, it's the strong side backer job to spill versus the inside release of the tight end. So once again, he sees the tight end releasing inside, spill inside, cross his face, try to close this off, so that way you have two guys. You know you have your help with your middle backer and your strong safety, who's the alley guy. You also have the defensive end again, once again maintaining the double team, as well as the nose tackle holding in his zone at the point of attack. Don't allow himself to get pushed back into the backers, thus creating a cutback lane for the running back. Now the weak side linebacker's job is to come over the top of the nose, and he's going to hit that down block with force, keeping his outside arm free. So he's going to have to meet the rubber at the road, keep that outside arm free, so that way he can get loose and make a tackle if need be. And you also have your free safety scraping as well, playing for the cutback or the reverse. And the strong safety right here is your field guy, middle backer, scraping over top, taking head on the blocker, thus creating the pile up in the lane for 9 times out of 10, the strong safety to make the tackle. So you can see it's just about assignment football with stopping the power. It's less about skill and more about your assignment. Do what you're supposed to do, and you shut down what the Titans want to do on the ground, thus putting them in a one-dimensional situation where you want Jake Locker with the football throwing more times than they are handing it off to Chris Johnson.
Now here are some coaching points for both teams in this ball game. For Tennessee, you want to limit the amount of times you're pulling your guards. You don't want to move these guys versus an over-aggressive linebacking core like the Houston Texans. They pose the same type of problems that the Pittsburgh Steelers posed last week, which is why you couldn't get the ground game going. Go for more base blocking, and if you have to move your guards, I will go with the full technique and not full-fledged pulling and trapping. And you also want to gamble early in the ball game on those rub routes and pivots. Get the football out of Locker's hands quickly, and if he can develop that rhythm and that confidence in the passing game early, it just opens up your entire offense. And on defense, you want to get front side pressure versus Matt Schaub. Wherever the tight ends are aligned, try to bring pressure that way. Front side pressure is the worst type of pressure for a quarterback. And for the Texans in this ball game, you want to sit in that tight cover 2 versus Jake Locker. You don't want to turn your back completely versus a guy that can take off and run. You want to force him to read coverage, and you also want to keep alert versus the running game. Zone coverage allows you to be in position to make a play, so that way you don't get out of position versus not only Jake Locker, but also CJ2K. And the Texans can continue to play offensive football like a boxer with the outstanding 1-2 punch with Tate and Foster, and coming over top with the right hook and Andre Johnson deep down the field. And finally, they have to tie up loose ends. They can't have those penalties, those mishaps, those mental errors that almost cost them a football game versus San Diego. The X factor in this ball game for Tennessee will be offensive coordinator Dwell Loggins. How can he get Locker involved early? How can he get that running game going with Chris Johnson? Those are all important questions that have to be answered in order for the Titans to come away victorious. And the X factor for the Texans will be the inside linebackers. You look at Joe Mays and also Brian Cushing, and what they did last week, both guys made key plays. Cushing made the interception. Mays was a force versus the run. They're going to need that type of output this week versus the Titans. I like the Texans in this ball game. I think offensively they always will be able to run the football, and that just opens up their passing game, which is why they're able to put points on the board. And defensively they are aggressive. They can play downhill. And right now the Titans are too one-dimensional, in my opinion, to be successful on the road. But I do like their defense, and they will be a tough out week in, week out. But I don't see them putting up enough points to knock off the Houston Texans. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Texans fan forums and Titan fan forums for always showing football game plan support.